Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services to our YouTube channel for virtual attendees. I'm Alec Peck, the chair of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. We invite you to leave your worries and defenses at the door and trust that what happens in worship is inspiring and powerful. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser as we begin a new day and a new week. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not over. So while we are here, please keep your masks on and socially distance. We can speak in normal tones, but singing or chanting creates an increased risk of airborne exposure, so we ask you to refrain for the time being. We invite those of you in the sanctuary to sit back and enjoy listening, but for those of you at home, sing your hearts out. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. For our call to worship, you are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Our speaker today is Linda Van Voorhis. Linda has been a member of the UUCR since 1997. She first came to the church looking for our community and support and found much more than that. Her spiritual background is based on Native American and Taoist philosophies founded in the early 70s with Scientology. It has evolved ever since. It was only after she started studying A Course in Miracles that she found the desire to speak at the pulpit. She has found that as her commitment to the church has grown and her willingness to participate in the church has increased as well. The title of today's sermon is A Course in Miracles and How It Relates to the UU Principles. Linda says, "Our principles are what guide us as UUs. I found that many of the tenets of Course in Miracles support the principles in such a way that it has made my spiritual life easier to live. It has well been a guide as understanding my own spiritual path and a direction as to how to apply the 7 principles. I've been working on the course for over 20 years now, and because there is always room to grow spiritually, the course has always been there both in good times and the bad times to lead my way both emotionally and spiritually." We have 2 lightings of sacred flame. This first is the occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign people, the original people of this land who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Kuya, the Quepeño, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let those thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading of the chalice lighting is Until We Have Seen Someone's Darkness by Maureen Williamson. Until we have seen someone's darkness, we don't really know who they are. Until we have forgiven someone's darkness, we don't really know what love is. Thank you, Bill. And now our opening hymn this morning is number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us. And for those in the sanctuary, please sit back and enjoy the hymn, but please do not sing along.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night.
Thank you, Tenka. We have a tradition here at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand and speak in front of others, and so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask that you come up to the front and speak into the mic clearly and directly so that everyone can hear. Do we have anyone who would like to speak about how they have found our church who's been here a while? If not, I will tell you about how I found the church, which is I came here when I started going to the UC Riverside. That was just over a year ago now, about a year and almost the end of the fall quarter. And I've been at UU for my entire life, and I really distinctly remember going through I guess the UU version of confirmation, where when I became a teenager, I was told that I needed to write out a statement of belief about what it is that I really believed and found personally true to me. And then I was tasked with the choice to become part of the UU church or to go in my own direction. And at that time, I was about to go to college, so I didn't become a member of my church there, but I've been involved in church communities since then. So, yeah, thank you. But if you are new here, a visitor, or perhaps an old friend, please raise your hand or stand and come to the front of the mic. And please let us know who you are, where you're from, and how you found out about us. And if we have any visitors on Zoom, I also invite you to type that in to the chat where we can read that aloud. Do we have any visitors? Thank you.
Thanks for having me here. It's really nice. I discovered I discovered this church the way we do nowadays, which means I Googled Universalist Unitarian Church in the Inland Empire, and this was the first hit, and it looks like a really good hit. So anyway, I was a member of the UU Church in Pasadena, one of them, because there's the big neighborhood, and then there's the Troop Church. I was a member of the Troop Church. Yeah. And it was wonderful. And I really like community. And it looks like you have food after the service and you get together. That's my favorite part. So anyway, I'm really glad it feels like, I hope it's going to be kind of like coming home, but we'll see. But thank you.
Thank you.
Am I done?
Yes, you're free. Thank you. Well, anyone else who's new, I invite you to see our visitors book out in the parish hall. And of course, we're happy to speak with you after the service in our coffee hour. But please, if you would like, you can leave your name before you leave in our visitors book and contact information if you'd like to hear about upcoming events or be put on our email list. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. There are now a few additional announcements that I would like to share. During the service, we're going to mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. And at the end of the service, we're going to leave up a slide with that information, and it's also available on our website. Chat time provides us an opportunity to talk amongst ourselves, discussing the topics of the service, and then leading on to various other specific topics. It's held on Zoom approximately 20 minutes after the end of the service, which will typically be around 11:30. To participate in person, please join us back here in the sanctuary, but the location may change depending on safety per pandemic regulations. And to participate on Zoom, there's a separate Zoom link, which can be found on the main page of our website under the Zoom chat time link for the main page. And now our hymn is Spirit of Life. If you are here in the sanctuary, I invite you to sit back, close your eyes, and listen. Do you still need the words? Sharing Our Spirit is a program to help facilities in need during our holiday season. All of the income from this fundraiser goes to our designated SOS fund. These funds will only be spent on the community to purchase food boxes, holiday gifts, as well as our Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day lunches. So please give generously this year. Both lunches are free to anyone who would like to attend. These funds do not go towards your pledge or any church expenses. Our goal this year is $2,000. This year's Sharing Our Spirit fundraiser will begin on October 10th and ends on November 28th, and on the second and fourth Sunday in October and November. This will give you a little more time to shop for our Thanksgiving and Christmas food and gift baskets for the community and support our Christmas and Thanksgiving Day meals. Please place your donations in the specially marked SOS envelopes in the pews and be sure to write SOS on your checks. Contact our office or our treasurer, Dinah Rowe, for more information. Thank you for your contribution. This portion, and also the last, is to support our beloved, this is now to support our beloved and historical church, and this can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address shown here. You may contribute using PayPal, using the QR code, which is on the church website and also in the newsletter, and also behind me. And the Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater's grocery cards, which we have on in the church each Sunday. You get the full value of the card, and the church also gets a percentage for free. Amazon cards similar are also available. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? Thank you again. And our next hymn is From You I Receive. Please sit back quietly and enjoy. Not again, not again. For our meditation today, let's reflect on our principles in a responsive reading titled Principles and Purpose for All of Us by the UUA. I invite you to join us in reading the italicized lines. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We believe that each and every person is important. We affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We believe that all people should be treated fairly. We affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth. We believe that our churches are places where all people are accepted and where we keep on learning together. We affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We believe that each person must be free to search for what is true and right in life. We affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. We believe that all people should have a voice and a vote about the things which concern them. We affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We believe that we should work for a peaceful, fair, and free world. We affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We believe that we should care for our planet Earth. Now let us pause for a moment of silence. I would now like to introduce Linda Van Voorhis, speaking to us on A Course in Miracles and how it relates to the UU principles. Linda.
Thank you, Alec. We have just looked at the 7 principles, and my sermon today is taking a look at the Course in Miracles. And for me as a UU, and anybody who else is interested, how they relate, how the Course in Miracles relates to the 7 principles. I'm going to start out with an introduction of what the Course in Miracles basically is. And the first thing I'm going to say about it is, well, it's going to be the second thing. I'm going to take a few minutes to introduce myself. My path to the Course in Miracles is as follows. I never had any religion in my life until my early 20s. Both my parents were not involved, didn't practice anything. My father was agnostic and my mother was atheist. And so I didn't have any religious ideas until I was in my early 20s, at which time it starts like this. I started going to a Baptist church with a friend of mine. I did enjoy it, but I found out that the minister you have makes a difference. About 2 years in, they changed the ministers, and the whole perspective of the church, how it was presented, and the ideas totally changed, at which point I decided that perhaps this wasn't for me. My second choice at that time was totally different. I got involved in the Church of Scientology. I have to say, it is not what you think it is. Until L. Ron Hubbard passed away in the 70s, it was late 70s. It was, in fact, for me, a spiritual enlightenment. I gathered a lot of my beliefs that I still hold today from the Church of Scientology. As I became involved in the UU Church in the late 90s, I stopped Scientology in the early 80s to raise my children as a single parent. And I joined Scientology in the late 90s, and I got involved in the paganist group here at the time. So my spiritual belief moved to, and has been such up to today, is that my relationship with nature and my relationship with Taoism as a combined spiritual belief is where I stood and still stand today. And here's the thing, that doesn't interfere. The Course of Miracles in no way interferes with the path that I've chosen. And that is true for any particular belief or path you have chosen for yourself, be it Christian or Buddhist or nobody. Nothing in the Course will tell you to adhere to a specific belief. I will say this about it, and this was a struggle for me. The book itself is written from a Christian viewpoint. In that time, that was certainly not my perspective. That's probably changed a lot since then, but and I struggled with the verbiage because it was on a Christian line. But as I read the Course, as I practiced the Course, as I went to the classes on Course of Miracles, I realized that in truth, that was irrelevant. And seeing the Course of Miracles like that, not getting hung up in any of the language, allowed me to have a tremendous amount of spiritual growth in the last 20 years. To explain the Course, I'm going to start with introducing some key definitions, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it came about. The Course was developed by Dr. Helen Schuchman and Dr. William Thethard, professors of medical psychology at Columbia University in New York. They couldn't get along and they were told to find a way, and I'm going to read you how they did that. This is Helen's thoughts on how she and Bill developed the Course. Psychologist, educator, conservative in theory, and atheist in belief, I was working in a prestigious and highly academic setting. And then something happened that triggered a chain of events I could have never predicted. The head of my department unexpectedly announced that he was tired of the angry and aggressive feelings our attitudes reflected, and concluded that there must be another way. As if on cue, I agreed to help him find it. Apparently, this Course is the other way. Although their intention was serious, they had great difficulty in starting out on their joint venture, but they had been given by what they termed the Holy Spirit a little willingness that, as the Course itself was to emphasize again and again, is sufficient to enable him to use any situation for his purpose and provide it with his power. To continue Helen's first-person account, 3 startling months preceded the actual writing, during which that time, Bill suggested I write down the highly symbolic dreams and descriptions of the strange images that were coming to me. Although I had grown accustomed to the unexpected by that time, I was really very surprised when I wrote, "This is a Course in Miracles." That was my introduction to the voice. It made no sound, but seemed to be giving me a kind of rapid inner dictation, which I took down in a shorthand notebook. At that point, she and Bill got together and started writing what her dreams were giving her, and that became the Course in Miracles. Again, to explain the course, I am going to introduce some key definitions. These definitions make up the basis of the Course in Miracles. When I define the Course in Miracles to other people, when I am asked what the Course in Miracles is, I will say that in life, we either come from a place of love or a place of fear. We make these choices based on our experiences and our perceptions in life. What the Course of Miracle does, the purpose of the Course, is both peace of mind and, more than that, to remind us of who we are in order to be able to achieve the ability to come from a place of love rather than a place of fear. And this is always our choice. When we go through life, when we have interactions with people and the earth and our animals, the web of life, we always have a choice of coming from a piece of love. And I will get to that. How do you do that later? But I'm going to start with a definition of love. Love contains the emotions of peace and joy. It is the action of giving without any expectation of getting anything back in return. Giving in this way always results in receiving. In love, we see something as positive, desirable, and pure. Fear. Fear is many things. It wears the coat of anger, of hate, of revenge, discontent, dislike. Because there's a cycle of fear that goes like this. We perceive that somebody else is attacking us. Generally, when it's a person, it's the things they say. It can be as subtle as a hidden little pick at you, and it can be as overt as anger and screaming in your face. But we perceive and we take that as an attack. Our reaction is generally not love, but fear, and we attack back. We consider that we're defending ourselves, that we have the right to do this as the other person started it. The next reaction after we've attacked back tends to be guilt. Maybe we feel attacking was the wrong reaction. Maybe we shouldn't have said what we said. It wasn't kind, or it wasn't true. And we feel we might have done something wrong or hurtful. This reaction perpetuates more guilt and ends up as a continuous cycle of fear and attack, because generally we decide at the end of all these contemplations that no, it wasn't our fault, it was the other guy's fault. So fear and attack. Guilt. Because you did something bad, you are bad and deserve condemnation and punishment. This is the traditional definition of guilt, but the Course of Miracles has a different one. What you did was not bad, but a mistake, an error. When we think we are guilty, we are not. We have made a mistake that needs correction. It does not mean that there is no responsibility or amends needed, but the emotions of hate that come from fear they don't really belong there. So fear or love, this is the question. In our interaction with the world, that is always the question. And this is where we get into problems. And the tough questions start. There are very many things that happen out there, sins, if you will, that seem to be unforgivable. How do you transfer your perspective from seeing those sins as attack as if somebody had done something wrong, and be able to have the perspective that they just made a mistake. And the answer to that is correction, not the anger emotions or the fear or all of the choices that we do tend to make. One of those sticky problems is our expectations. From the time of childhood, the question of fear or love is always involved. How did our parents treat us? Did they hold us when we cried, or did they let us cry to teach us our manners? How did they show their love or not? How did we choose with others? Did we share our choice, or were we afraid somebody would damage them and wanted to have something nicer to feel better about ourselves? Our siblings got to stay up later, more attention. Our friends had more dates. Our parents let the oldest stay up later. The youngest got to climb in bed, but we were never allowed. Maybe by then, Mama was tired of resisting, but we didn't know that. We saw or thought perhaps the Mama loved the child more than myself. For example, we expect our parents to be loving, but instead, they spent a little or a lot of time yelling, or maybe saying things that made us feel worthless. We didn't do real good on a test, and so we didn't study hard enough, and what was wrong with us, or we're always picking on our siblings, and we see mom and dad doing the same thing with each other. So we make judgments about them. Maybe we start thinking that all men are angry or women are mean. We might think that there's something wrong with us, and so we're afraid to get close to others. Not loving thoughts about ourselves or others, but fearful thoughts that judge how others should be, and when they don't fit the ideal of good or bad, then we separate from people, if we haven't before, and we lose our peace of mind along the journey. Another example is relationships. One evening you have a fight with your partner, and when you wake up, you look at your partner and you don't see love. Rather, you see someone who accused you of spending too much money, of being careless. When all you wanted was to look nice at your women's group, you didn't want them to see you as poor or unfashionable. But what he saw was he couldn't get to sleep, worrying about paying the bills, and how she didn't care about how hard he worked and spent needlessly. The same process works for groups we are in too. Political groups are a very obvious group where judgment of your opponents or political affiliation is clear, as they are judgments. Fear that someone else will or can't do what is needed to reach a group's goal, or just personal issues, like I'm better than them, or I don't fit in because I don't see something about the political arena quite the same way you do. And today, of course, it's much more violent than that, where we're totally split, and there's very, very large accusations about how horrible the other group is, what's wrong with the Republicans, what's wrong with the Democrats, and how we're right. And so we're not going to listen to what they had to say. So the next term I'm going to talk about is judgment. The mental act of deciding what something is, what it is for, how well it measures up, and how worthy it is. We do this for everything and every experience. With the judgment comes the perception of the world, how we see the world. For most of us, when we are feeling attacked, we make a judgment, and this is not going to be a positive judgment, and is about ourselves and others. From the time we are small, every time there is attack, there are emotions attack, fear, guilt. If we're lucky, we can still put love there. We carry these experiences with us into the future. As we talked about before, and you're growing up, all of the experience that happens forms your perceptions of the world. If you're a good person or you're a bad person. If you're a smart person or you're dumb. If you're attractive or if you're just mediocre and you're not good or bad. Or you're splendid, spectacular because your body is beautiful. All of these things we put judgments on in order to go through life. We find a good friend, someone we love, we have kids, and we have expectations. And when those expectations could not possibly be met, we have guilt and the fear that those earlier attacks created. These are not loving thoughts, but they're fearful thoughts. So how do we get out of this cycle that finds us lonely, unhappy, sad? There is a saying that sometimes the loneliest place can be in a crowd. Which brings us to one more definition: forgiveness. This is the basics of the teachings of Course in Miracles, finding a way that in both the big judgments and the very large judgments, how do you find forgiveness? Forgiveness in the traditional way is that the other person did a bad thing, and I will release you from punishment, even though you did something to harm or hurt me and you don't deserve it. I will still forgive you. I won't let go of this. I will hang on to it for the rest of our relationship, again, unless I'm very lucky and I understand that in order to have that peace in my life, I need to do that. But most of the time, in the back of our mind, the next time we see that person and forever, that incident sticks in your mind. And if it's huge, siblings, families do this a lot, then they separate big time. You haven't spoke to your sister in a year. This was happens to me. My family isn't close and we don't talk to each other much. Or you hate each other. As growing up, you do vengeful things, and this separation gets wider and wider and wider and wider. And this happens a lot in our romantic relationships as well. We start out meeting somebody, and there's something about that person that really, really clicks with you, and you get to know them, and you find you have common things, and you do the same things. You go to the movies, or you collect airplanes, or you like art or museums, or you both love children, or you find the common things. So you decide that this is a person that I could spend the rest of my life with, because we need to fill that loneliness of separation. And this looks like a person who would really fit. And you find yourself having both physical and mental emotions of kindness and love. So you get married and you start living together, or maybe you've been living together. But as time goes on, all the little attacks start to build up. And the other thing about relationships that we do a lot of times without realizing is we're marrying that person or living with that person or partnering that person because they fill a need for us. Often it is said that this partner does the things this way because I'm not. And so it fulfills me, and now we're one together. Only generally what happens is that those same things you loved about them when you got married are the things that you find that you dislike about them 5 years later. He's always sitting in front of the TV. He never comes home on time for dinner. I cook and I slave and I make this wonderful meal. Not home again, sits on the table. He doesn't eat it. I give up something because he doesn't like. I like wearing makeup and he doesn't, so I stopped doing that. And then I find myself feeling that I've lost myself, that I've stopped being who I am, and I've become being who they are a lot more. So how do you get out of this circle? Okay, forgiveness. This is the Course of Miracles description. First of all, sin is not real. We are not bad people. Both Scientology and many other religious organizations feel that man is basically good. So if man is basically good, if we were created, however we were created, as basically good, then these are the things that we do are mistakes. This is where we get into the correction. We see the actions the other person has taken that make us feel hurt or have some sort of judgment on you as mistakes. And it is something that can be fixed or not, but for me, I can still forgive you whether you fix it or not. I can look at it as a mistake, no harmful, no foul. Forgiveness is accepting that rather being a harmful sin, a bad or hateful action that has been done, that a mistake has occurred, and we can continue to treat each other with love. So how do you do that? You know, that's not an easy thing to do. This is what the Course of Miracles is about, is helping you find the path that you can step back and come from a place of love instead of a place of fear when somebody makes a mistake. And think about this. The first thing we have to do is stop looking at it as attack. Because really, in truth, that anger, that yelling, those nasty things, those little picks, really, they're the problem of not you, but the person who is attacking you. Because they come from their past and the things that they were told, how their parents treat them, how school treated them. They're the things attacking, the original attack comes from inside the other person. Those things are really not true about you. Well, maybe a little bit, but that doesn't mean that you have to look at yourself badly either, because that's what we do. When a person says how horrible we are, we tend to look inside and say, oh yes, I'm like this, instead of stepping back and saying, okay, I understand how you feel and what you're saying is incorrect, but I don't have to choose to yell back. I can stop and say, wait a minute, and think about how this is the person's other problem and not attack back, and look for a way, what the real problem is, where is this really coming from, and correct that, because that's the mistake. There is at no point do we have to decide, I am going to hate you. Think about a recent argument you had with a friend of your spouse. Just think about that, how that event went. The thoughts you had about how that person was making you feel small, and this is not what you wanted from a relationship, or your children had no right to say that, you were doing the best you can, or how mean your teacher was because you didn't understand the math, and how you got really angry because you felt small. And the first thing you don't have to do is feel small. You have a choice. You can say, wait a minute, this is not me. I don't feel like this. This is not true what the person is saying. And I don't have to attack back. I don't have to say bad things about that person. Sometimes when it's difficult and you want to spew it all out, the best thing to do, and I'm sure we've all heard this before, is walk away, calm down, think about what's really going on, and then come back knowing that if you really loved that person, you still love that person. And really, what can I do to help the other person with his fear and his anger, rather than how am I going to attack with my fear and my anger? We don't have to judge. We don't have to separate. We don't have to have any of that if we're willing to step back and say that this time I'm going to step back and I'm not going to attack, because that's how you stop the cycle. Otherwise, it goes on and on and on in your life, and you find yourself separate and lonely and afraid and feel like you have no one to talk to. The path of Course in Miracles is finding a way so that you can step back and you can feel love. You can walk away from this. How do you do that? There are exercises in the Course of Miracles in the back that you do, how often you want, that help you to be able to get to a place where you can step back and feel love rather than fear. It's stepping back from judgment and separation and going back to the place where you felt like you were one with that other person, that you had so much in common and this was the right person for you. Truth is, they still are. So how do you do that with the bigger things? How do you do that with the Democrats and the Republicans? Nobody wants, in this culture, nobody wants to be wrong. And again, it's the same thing. It's recognizing that the other person is being judgmental and stuck in a place where they're not going to listen to you. This is me, because I know my sister is not going to listen to me. So I don't get angry with her, and I don't try to talk about it, and I don't try to change her mind, because that isn't going to happen. But I step back and I say, okay, sis, how's your family? How's your life? How are you feeling? I don't have to make the choice of being right. I don't have to make the choice of being angry. I can choose to change the cycle. This means, rather than continuing in fear, the judgments and separations, by giving without expecting anything back at all, that's the miracle. Simple as a smile, or complex as letting go of fear, that's forgiveness. It is love. It is to remind us of who we truly are, both the other person or persons and ourselves. And if this doesn't line up with our principles, we don't have them up, but all those things you read, I don't know what does. This is where it gets hard for me, because I can't say that there is anything in Course of Miracles that doesn't support how we treat each other, how we treat the earth, and how we treat the web of life. It is all about, Course of Miracles is all about how we treat each other and how we can come from a place of love or a place of fear. Thank you. I think we have, do we have a hymn, or we have a hymn? Benediction? Where are we? Yes, we have a hymn. No, we're now singing. We've got a piece, I've got Peace Like a River. And again, those at home, sing your hearts out. Those here, sing to yourself.
a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul, in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul, in my soul. I've got love like the ocean. I've got love like the ocean. I've got love like the ocean in my soul. I've got love like the ocean. I've got love like the ocean. I've got love like the ocean in my soul, in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul, in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul, in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul, in my soul.
I would like to say that having done the course for 20 years, I can honestly say that there are some mornings I wake up and I feel like that. Benediction. Love is what we are born with. Fear is what we learn. The spiritual journey is unlearning the fear and prejudices and acceptance of love back in our hearts. Love is essential reality and our purpose on earth. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others is the meaning of life. Namaste, amen, and blessings be. I would like to say that we have a Course of Miracles session every Saturday at 10 a.m. next door in the annex. You are welcome to come. You do not bring a book if you want to just find out what it's about, and you do not have to come in at the beginning. The way the book is written, you can open it up and start at that page. And for those of us who have been coming, we can answer any questions. The way we do this is we do some reading, we talk about it, we express our differences and our familiarities and our questions, and we kind of help each other with our challenges and how do you find love and not fear. So you're all welcome to come. And again, next door in the annex at 10 a.m. Do you want to read that, or I could read that myself? Thank you very much. Saturday at 10 a.m.
Yes, thank you, Linda. Thank you for spending your time today. We sincerely appreciate it, and we love having you here. There will be a brief 10 to 15 minute Q&A, which we're going to hold just now, but please be aware that this is going to be included on the recording, which is posted on YouTube. And now, Linda, I'd like to, once you are ready, you can come back, and if we have any questions for you, then we may ask you.
Again, thank you, Alec. Any questions? Bill?
Linda.
Tinka. Tinka is one of my compadres in the Course in Miracles.
Yes, since we've been studying the Course in Miracles together for over 20 years, I wanted to ask you, what is the most difficult personal situation that you've had that the Course in Miracles has helped you to overcome? Is there a particular greater fear or a situation in which you were having a hard time coming from a place of love?
There actually are two of those. I'll start with the latest one, and that is the political arena. And for me, and this is for me, and please don't take offense, is President Trump. It has been a very, very tumultuous 4 years, 5 years, 6 years in our world because of him. And it's a question I had to ask myself very deeply as to how I could come from a place of love, because I saw his presidency as very, this is me again, please, very destructive to the country, and is still having its effects today, and that I am very concerned about the health of democracy. So how did I handle that? The same way. Again, please understand, for anybody who supports Trump, I have nothing against you. But I see Trump as having severe challenges from his childhood to the point where he has what we call mental issues. I just say he's overwhelmed with fear, totally one big bundle of fear. And his reaction to that is to attack everything and everybody around him that affects our country. If you don't support him, he will attack you, guaranteed. And unfortunately, in some ways, that's carried down to the Republican Party as well. We used to be able to have people talk to each other across the aisle and have conversations and sometimes even listen to each other. And it seems impossible today. So again, I look at the problem is fear or love, that he chooses fear. At this time, I can't change it. I can't change that situation, but I can take my love and I can go out and help in the community. I've become a board member for Inland Churches United for Change. And that's my way of coming from a place of love, doing more things in the community, helping. We are as a social justice group here, which we do have, if you're interested, that meets third Sunday after church. And we had a meet up with Mark Takano this last week, talked about the things that we'd like to see changed. Those are the things that I can do. I don't need to hate Trump. I don't need to attack people who like Trump. I didn't need to hate people who like Trump. I can go out and do the things that I feel that are coming from a place of love, and I don't have to have hate in my heart. So my biggest challenge in life, and I believe truly one of the reasons I got involved in Course of Miracles was from this experience. 10 years into our marriage, my poor husband had a very, very bad accident, came out of it with multiple broken bones and injuries and a brain injury. He has a traumatic brain injury, which makes life very difficult for him. It has affected some of his thinking abilities. One is the ability to not speak impulsively and to be able to contain his reaction in social situations in a way that's appropriate. So I know when we have challenges, it's not his fault and isn't. But sometimes, every once in a while, that's hard to remember. And for that reason, I'm very grateful for the Course of Miracles. for both of us. Next question, Bill.
I shall strive for brevity. Those of you who know me say, place your bets now. The thing I like from having heard the Course of Miracles is that my path no longer is Christian per se, although I still sample like crazy whenever I can. I'm more on the happy tree hugger, neo-pagan side of the street. But I remember where I was, especially at this time of year. And the thing that I like about this Course of Miracles is the idea of, rather than having the people, large bodies of people that you say, I'm going to have to throw you all away now. With the Course in Miracles effect, you can at least say, well, I can't talk politics, but there's still local news and sports. And there's some way to build a bridge between people, a good bridge, the kind of a thing that says, well, there are people I know that are Trumpists, and if I stayed off the subject, I also know that many of them are honest enough and solid enough that I could actually work for them and do a good job and feel like I was working for a good human. But I don't want to talk politics with them. That just lights a big old fuse. But the idea of being able to salvage what's been going on. There used to be a phrase they used to use called the city on the hill. And it meant the next best thing to paradise. And my feeling, like I was telling my friend earlier, sometimes we build that holy city with kind of poisoned bricks. But I still want that city. And figuring out a way to keep the poison level down of just the level of being able to do something useful is really important right now.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions, thoughts? Okay, have a good day. May the force be with you.